Rothman and Ice present Gold Jacket Thursday.
Presented by the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
All right, it's my favorite thing. We get to chat with legends of the game, and there's nothing like it. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton is the place to be if you haven't been, and this is a great weekend to do it because they're going to have another great legend there. And I love incredible stories, guys that weren't ready-made, guys that had to work for it, guys that had to maybe overachieve at times in some people's eyes. And he was a third-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals out of Southern University, where he walked on. I'll repeat that, walked on. And now he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, inducted in 2014, 90s All-Decade Team, and an 8-time Pro Bowl corner. His name is Aeneas Williams, and he's with us now. Aeneas, it's great to have you.
Glad to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You're back in football heaven. I'm going to ask you a kind of a generic question right out of the gate. Now that you're back in Canton and you see your bus there and everything, you look back on your career, what did you love most about football?
Oh, that's a great question. What I love most about football, probably what I learned to love about football was how to develop competitive excellence, meaning regardless of fear, because I dealt with fear initially. I wasn't sure I can actually cover receivers one-on-one in the National Football League. So being able to overcome those fears and be able to step in and understand that the body's natural reaction to things that are challenging, the body's going to feel a certain way, even your mind may think certain thoughts. But the ability to still show up and execute on a daily basis really, really helped me throughout life. Being able to do what I do with excellence in spite of not always feeling that I'm the most confident at what I'm doing.
Aeneas, I want to stay there because you used the word fear. Was there a specific moment? Was there a practice? Was there a game to where you remember that fear fading away and the confidence starting to increase for you?
And the fear was more in, and I would overcome it through my relationship with Christ. I'd spend time just thinking about the power of God and what I understand from the scriptures, where all of a sudden now I would make God bigger than what the actual challenge was. But in terms of the fear, it just meant a Randy Moss, he's 6'4", he's 225. Aeneas I am 5'10" and a half, I'm 190. Just physicality, those things just don't equate. Mm-hmm. But a true story. So after my third year playing with the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, they fired the coach Joe Bugle, and they hired Buddy Ryan. My wife and I were in Champaign-Urbana. She was getting her MBA there, and I was a restricted free agent. And I told my wife, I said, I don't think we're going to sign. I don't want to sign back with the Cardinals because I heard Buddy Ryan is not a player's coach, which wasn't true at all. And one thing typically wives will do, they'll ask you more questions. So what it really ended up was I was afraid to sign back with the Arizona Cardinals because I wasn't sure that I can play in Buddy's defense, which puts the cornerbacks on an island. And so once she and I prayed about it, then we felt the desire to go back and sign with Arizona Cardinals. As soon as I signed back with them, one of his sons, he has twins, Rob and Rex Ryan. You guys may be familiar with them. It was their first job in the league. Both of them had been in college. Their dad was the first one to give them professional jobs. Rob coached against me at Tennessee State, a historical black college, when I was at Southern. As soon as we signed, he was the defensive back coach. Rob came and put his arms around me, and he says, you're going to make All-Pro, you're going to make the Pro Bowl, and you're going to lead this league in interceptions. He said, I saw you do that at Southern. And that's when I understood the power of people in authority. In this case, it was Rob. And guys, do you know that's the first year I led the league in interceptions. I led the league I made the Pro Bowl and I made All-Pro. And Rob convinced Buddy, his father, to put me on the best receiver. Now, keep in mind now, you're talking about fear initially, right? So now, not only did I sign, now my coach is telling his dad, and Buddy never did this, by the way. He didn't do this in Philadelphia. He didn't do this in Chicago. He never moved his corners. You were either left or right. Rob convinced his dad to have me assigned to the best receiver. And that's when I learned to overcome the fear, is because I was actually placed in a position that allowed the greatness that was in me to come out.
Great story. We are talking with the former three-time first-team All-Pro corner, Aeneas Williams, Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. You can meet and greet with Aeneas this weekend, Saturday. He'll be the one in the gold jacket, and he'll be 9 to 10 a.m. in the Hall of Fame store in the Bust Gallery, and then 10 to 11:30, breakfast at the Hall, meeting visitors, and I highly recommend it. 55 career picks, 9 going back for touchdowns, 3 fumble returns for touchdowns. You mentioned the guys that you had to go up against, Aeneas. Which guy or which guys did you cherish more on being able to shut down or go up against? Which guy presented the biggest challenge for you?
I always get asked that question, and I always share with people, because they always ask, who is the most difficult? Who is the hardest? And I always say, I don't have somebody that I tell you was the hardest or the most difficult. What I had was different players with different skill sets and different talents. But I can tell you in terms of really going up against someone that we had some amazing battles, it would have been Michael Irvin. Because Michael was he prided himself on being what do I call this, a bully. Prided himself on intimidating cornerbacks. And so once he realized he could intimidate me, we had some amazing battles. And I attribute being in the Hall of Fame to those battles with Michael Irvin a significant impact of me developing my potential.
One of your greatest quotes, I think I remember when you were talking about Michael Irvin, was, if he goes to the bathroom, I'm going with him. Is that true?
That's exactly right, man, because he had his coach. It was interesting because when Shane Gailey was his coach, I think he was office coordinator at the time, Shane started moving Michael, because normally Michael was just an X. He'd line up on the line, and I'd go cover Michael. But Shane wanted to try to move Michael around to get me off of him and try to get him on someone else. But it turned out, and this is Michael's own words, it was Michael didn't like that, because that took him out of his advantageous position to use his physicality. So it was those battles that was so much fun that really helped me develop into a player with competitive excellence.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that's so impressive to me is, a defensive back that's not only good in coverage, but he also takes the ball away. And you were great at both. Talk us through that skill set of taking the rock away, and then, like you did a lot, and taking it to the house. Is there something that you looked for specifically, something that you worked on in practice that led you to be such a great defensive back at handing the ball over to your offense, or more importantly, putting points up on the board?
Well, you mentioned earlier that I walked on the team. Actually, I walked on the team a week before the season started, my junior year in college. And I end up starting by the 5th game that first year, and then played a total of 3 seasons in college, the 3rd year while in graduate school. But so I had 20 interceptions over that period of time, and I led the nation with 11 my senior year. So catching the ball was extremely important to me, and I didn't necessarily have natural hands as relates to some guys. They just naturally catch the ball. It's a skill, so I worked on it a lot. And then not only did I work on it a lot, I developed a mentality that it was never acceptable for someone to catch a ball on me. So in practice, walkthroughs, no matter what it was, I developed that mentality. But I also developed the mentality of, when I say there's many of your those that like the game of football, how many times have you seen defensive backs running next to the receiver? He's right there, but he never turns around. And eventually, either the receiver catches the ball over them or there's pass interference. So Gilbert, so this was going into my 4th year, I reached out to a guy by the name of Gilbert, who's in the San Diego Chargers Ring of Fame. He was an all-pro cornerback, probably about 7 years ahead of me. And I had a coach who coached him with the Chargers when I was in Arizona, and he had come to Arizona. Bobby Jackson is his name. And Bobby would tell me about Gil. And so we ended up playing Gil that season, and I asked Gil if I can get his phone number during the off season so I can call him. And so I called him, and I asked him, can I come see you and just get your wisdom? And when I got there, Gil took me, my wife and I stayed in his house with he and his wife, Marilyn, and he took me to the San Diego Chargers facilities. He taught me how to study film. But the first thing he did when I was on the football field, he said, what's your philosophy? I said, what philosophy? What do you mean? Cornerback, what are you talking about philosophy? So the first thing I said, what came to me was, don't get beat. And he said, yeah, that's why guys get beat. I said, what do you mean? Then he gave me a scenario. He said, you see the guy who's right next to the receiver. He never turns around, even though he could turn around, catch the ball, and either the receiver catches the ball on him or he gets pass interference. He says, Aeneas, change the philosophy. He said, here it is. He said, they have to beat you. Now, that sounds like a play on words, but it's huge. He says, when the ball's in the air, you have just as much an opportunity to catch it as they do. So even though I was very good in college, that took me to a whole nother level, that mindset. The second thing is, in practice, every interception, every fumble recovery, I got to the nearest sideline, ran full speed to the end zone. So when people ask me, what was it like catching 2 interceptions in the divisional round against the Cowboys, upsetting them, catching 2 of Aikman's passes, or divisional round when I was with the Rams, what was it like catching 2 of Brett Favre's passes and running them back? I always tell them it was just like practice. It was just like practice. So the question you just asked, it all started because I practiced as if the game was practice.
Well said. I'd love to talk to you more. The time with the Rams was epic. I wish you would have won the big one. I know you were favored going into it. Some turnovers and things like that, but what a career, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and maybe this will be the best tribute I can give you. The quote that you have from your dad, the one, it's not what people know that hurts them, it's what they know that's not true, has penetrated me deeply, and I love it, and I've committed it to memory. So I hope that makes you feel good.
It makes me feel amazingly well. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, Aeneas, we'll send people up to the hall. If they haven't been there, this is a great weekend to come meet and greet with you. But you enjoy your time. Soak it up there in Canton. You deserve it. Thanks for making this time.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.